Welcome to the Free Parking Show with Amos, Rich, Ryan, and Peter. Four sports journalists cover the world of sports with the utmost professionalism, or as much as they can muster after 5 beers.
Good morning. Welcome to the Sideline Journalist Week 16 pregame edition. It is Christmas Eve. I am happy to have Ryan and Peter on this morning. Mitchell has unfortunately got stuck at work. Hopefully he's not having a good day. I'm just playing Mitch. We love you, brother. How's everyone doing this morning? Everybody ready for Santa Claus tomorrow?
Absolutely, man. Happy, ready for football today. And, glad to be around my family. I'm back home this week and really excited for Santa tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Christmas tomorrow. Hope everyone has a good Christmas.
All right, so the fan poll was in last week. We decided we wanted to see what the biggest Christmas movie was, voted for by the fans, for the fans. There was literally no contest, which surprised me, and I know we were just having the discussion of, you guys think it was Die Hard. The fans think otherwise. In a landslide with like 99% of the votes, it goes to Christmas Vacation, one of my personal favorites. But, when you're talking about Christmas movies, it's always hard to dissect which one is the best. So I thought it was pretty neat. We ran that poll. Right now I'm going to leave it open for any objections as to why it should be something else.
Yeah, I definitely think it's Die Hard, so I think the fans are wrong. But if it can't be Die Hard, Christmas Vacation, obviously a great movie.
Christmas Vacation is a great movie. I'm not going to argue with that one.
All right, so here we go, guys. I created another poll that I'm going to update when we get down to the Eagles-Giants game. It was who is the biggest threat in the NFC for the Dallas Cowboys now. But before that, let's get into the news. Article number 1, late last night, Todd Bowles hospitalized, stomach, just some undisclosed illness. He stayed in the hospital overnight, got up early this morning, somehow managed to get down to Boston, and it's only like a hop, skip, and a jump from New York to Boston, so it's always good to see, get up to Boston, not down to Boston, because New York is south of Massachusetts, but he is going to coach today. We wish Todd Bowles all the best of luck in the world, with his health. But unfortunately, he's going to get curb stomped by the Patriots. But I'm just glad. You don't want to see anybody hospitalized, illnesses like that, especially right around the holidays, because these guys got families too.
He's a tough guy. I know his team has had no luck this season. They've had a pretty bad year, but this just goes to show you what kind of coach he is, to get out of the hospital and rush to be with his team so he can coach them today. And what really is a meaningless game for them at this point in this season. So, it shows a lot of character. And I like that he's okay, obviously, and I'm glad that he gets to be with his team today.
Yeah, it does show a lot of character, and I'm happy that hospital, just like Rich said, just right around the holidays. You hate to see this happen regardless. And I agree with you, Ryan. It does show a lot of guts and a lot of heart. I think it's good that he's. If he was feeling too good, I don't think he should be out there. But he wants to be out there for the last 2 games and see what he can do with this roster heading into next year, through the offseason, through the draft, and free agency. So, hats off to him. Hopefully, he's going to feel better soon. I hope this doesn't happen to him again.
Article number 2. Another sad season ending for the Honey Badger. Tyrann Mathieu shoulder. They went ahead and placed him on IR. I don't know how serious it was. I think had they been in the playoff hunt, he may have been able to play through the pain. But this was, we've talked all football season about how this is not the same Cardinals team we saw from a year ago that was just completely dominant on almost every team they played. So, good move, smart move. What do you think of this one?
I haven't gotten to see a lot of them lately. I don't think this really surprised anybody. He hurt his shoulder in the Carolina Panthers game in Week 8, and since then we've seen him only play 2 of those next 6 games. So we haven't seen a lot of him. And even in those 2 games, he really struggled, with the injury, and it really wasn't himself. I hope to see this guy 100% healthy in 2017 because he is one heck of a football player and, can really change the course of a game. He's that impactful for a team. So I hope that he can come back healthy.
Yeah, I hope he can come back healthy too. I think this is a smart decision. You're out of the playoff hunt. Don't try to risk your future in games that, I don't want to say that they're meaningless, but you obviously want to win as many games as you can to build off of this year. But also, like you said, Ryan, his shoulder injury, seeing him play 2 out of the previous 6 games just goes to show you how bad that injury is. So, smart decision here to shut him down, bring him back next year full health.
Number 3 and number 4 is kind of all in the same boat with the Patriots. First, before we get into the Tom Brady, before we get into these Jimmy Garoppolo trade rumors just keep resurfacing. This is how this all boils down. Tom Brady wound up on the injury report listed as questionable today. They activate Jacoby Brissett. Apparently, he is going to be in uniform on the sidelines. Jimmy Garoppolo, that now they're saying, well, with Brissett active, Jimmy Garoppolo's name keeps coming up, and a lot of people think that he is going to be the one to get traded this offseason. And me personally, I've always looked at it like this. Had the Patriots known 100% sure that Tom Brady was not going to be so highly doubtful that Jacoby Brissett winds up in New England this year. Bill Belichick does not like carrying 3 quarterbacks on the roster, and I've read some of the articles that firmly believe that Jimmy Garoppolo is in fact not going anywhere. They want to make the smooth transition from Tom Brady to Jimmy Garoppolo and have Brissett there as the backup to Jimmy Garoppolo. So that's just what we're seeing now. The Cleveland Browns still seem to come up in these trade discussions, so I just don't know what they're going to do here.
I think that we see Garoppolo stay put this season, and he has one more season left on his contract with the Patriots. It's a smart move for him. You get to play under a great coach. You get to learn from, arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. And that's a perfect position to be in. I know you can be antsy to make a name for yourself, get out there and start. Look how much success guys that have waited have had in the past. You look at Aaron Rodgers, waited for 5 seasons and until he got to start, and it worked out beautifully for him. It was a couple of seasons in, he won a Super Bowl. He's been the MVP. He's had a great career, and he had a lot of time setting under a fantastic quarterback in Brett Favre. Jimmy G's in the same boat. I'd say just buy your time. But the thing with this is you never know. Bill Belichick plays his cards very close to his chest, so you really never know what the Patriots are planning to do or what they're going to do. I mean, we saw them make a trade this season that I think blew everybody's mind when it happened. So you never know. And as for the Tom Brady injury, I'll get more into that when we talk about fantasy and what the fantasy impact of that is.
Well, I think the Patriots are going to try to hold on to Jimmy Garoppolo for some time because, I know Tom Brady wants to play for a long time. Now Jimmy G's had 3 years under Tom, which is the same amount Aaron Rodgers had under Brett Favre. And we saw what happened at the beginning of this year, year 3, where Jimmy Garoppolo came out, played really well, and then got hurt. So I think if the Patriots are smart, they're going to try to hold on to him and have a smooth transition. I think Tom Brady can play for a few more years, but I've seen a few throws he's made this season, a few games where his throws have been a little bit off. I think part of that's probably because of the knee injury. And I'm not saying he's declining, but sometimes when quarterbacks get older, you might see those passes hitting here and there, and then a few years down the road, you see that quarterback struggle mightily. An example of that would be kind of like Peyton Manning. Obviously, last year Peyton Manning played terribly. And a few years leading up to that, I saw him throw wobbly passes, but I think part of that too was just the neck surgery. So I'm not trying to compare the two. What I'm trying to say is that, if we see Tom Brady making more kind of lame duck throws that I've seen him make this year down the road more and more, then that's where I'd be a little bit more concerned. So But I truthfully think he could probably go another 5 full seasons of pretty good quarterback play and then retire. So I don't know what the Patriots are going to do. I mean, if they're going to trade him, they might want to do it before his contract in New England expires, because otherwise you're not going to get any value for him. And then as far as Jacoby Brissett goes, it's possible that they're just activating him in case he wants Tom Brady down the stretch and just use both he and Jimmy Garoppolo in games. I think Jacoby Brissett needs some more time on the field to kind of fine tune his passing in the NFL, because the thing about him I like is he got a strong arm, he's mobile, but some of his decision making needs to improve. But again, he is a rookie, and his accuracy, he's been a little bit wild with the ball because he throws the ball so fast that he might overthrow the receiver or throw it too quick where the receiver can't get out of his break to try to catch the ball. So maybe we'll see Brissett again this year just to have some mop-up duty and just get him some more reps, so that way hanging in the training camp next year he has some on-field experience in the regular season added to his resume.
It's going to be interesting because the reports are Sean Payton is monitoring the LA Rams coaching hires, their coaching search. Really, since they had the players getting bonuses for injuring players and that whole thing, since then, Sean Payton's relationship with the Saints has been turbulent. Not quite rocky, but it has been a little bad. And I think that's why it seems like every season since then we've heard it, off-season rumors. Is Sean Payton leaving? Is he going here? Is he going there? And this could be just another rumor, but if he's actively monitoring it, it tells you that he has interest in this position. You don't. If you're a different head coach, you just wait until they pick somebody, and you don't really care until they do, and then you're like, all right, so this is what this team's gonna look like. They get a guy that runs the ball. They're going to be more of a running team, whatever. You don't really care until they pick someone. If you're monitoring it while it's going on, you are interested in the job. And as I've said before on the show, it's not the Rams don't have a real appealing offer for any head coach right now, in my opinion. But obviously Sean Payton disagrees with me, and he's interested in this job. And I mean, it's in LA. You're talking about the second biggest market in the United States. That's obviously something that's always going to want to bring in free agents and bring in coaches and stuff, because that if you have success there, you're going to be the most famous coach in football. That's just the way that it works. So, not surprising, but it comes with this.
Yeah, this isn't shocking either. I mean, they've obviously had Sean Payton. The lack of success in New Orleans kind of always made me wonder if he was going to be asked to leave at some point because the defenses down there have been historically awful the past few seasons. And as you mentioned, Ryan, obviously the turbulent relationship between Sean Payton and the Saints following the Bounty Gate scandal, it's pretty obvious. So I think I wouldn't be shocked to see him go to LA. But the one thing you could probably do out here is he's a guy that knows how to put players in the right position to succeed on offense. So he'll go there with a young quarterback who'll be entering his second year. This is assuming he takes the job. A guy in Todd Gurley who's entering his third year, and Tavon Austin. And yes, Kenny Brick and Brian Quick, I believe, is the other receiver's name. But what'll be interesting to see is he can utilize guys like Gurley and Tavon Austin. Because what Tavon Austin can do running and catching the football, I think Sean Payton might be able to use Tavon Austin kind of like a Reggie Bush, where he can use them all over the field doing different things. And I think you could really see Tavon Austin flourish in his offensive system. And also, it makes a lot of sense because it gives the Rams a big-name head coach, somebody who is going to be willing to work with the players. Since they already have a defense, all he's going to have to do when he gets there is work on some depth on defense, fixing some of the small holes they have on defense, but mostly fixing the offensive line and the offense of the Rams. So I think this is a perfect job for Sean Payton.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you guys more on that one. All right, so the Week 16 opened up Eagles over the Giants. It was the Giants were actually favored by 2.5, so it was a great betting game for those that were out there betting the parlays and whatnot. Key takeaway from this game, from a fantasy standpoint, I had Aaron Rodgers, I had Matthew Stafford. Both of them did not put up great numbers. Looked at Eli Manning was sitting there on the waiver wire, so you know what, I need a quarterback. Last time they played, he threw like 4 touchdowns with him. Started him, of course, his first couple of passes, one ends up being a pick six. Ends the night with 3 interceptions, so that's obviously the turnaround here. And with that loss, the Dallas Cowboys are now the number 1 seed in the NFC. The poll question was created, and believe it or not, a lot of the fans still believe that the New York Giants are the threat to beat the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs. Like, they're the only true threat, and I tend to disagree. But before we do that, I want to hear you guys' take on this game, and we'll talk about a little bit about who's going to win this NFC now that Dallas has got home field.
Yeah, obviously a huge night for the Dallas Cowboys. No one will ever understate how important it is to have home field advantage in the playoffs, and a big move for the Cowboys. As for the Giants, you had a chance to play a division rival, one that hasn't been playing good as of late, and take it. And I really thought that, in fantasy, I started the Giants defense this week in a handful of leagues where, I'm playing matchups rather than getting a true standout defense. And, that just didn't happen. They played really bad. Eli Manning threw a couple of picks in this game. And the Eagles secondary has taken a lot of hits over the last few weeks about how the defense is oversimplified, about how they run, this man too much, and it really leaves them open to good quarterbacks. And they really responded well in this game. They were all over Odell Beckham Jr. They played a really fantastic game. And you look at the team they're going up against, you have Eli Manning, and I know Eli Manning is up and down, but he's still a good quarterback in this league. You look at his wide receivers. I mean, it's one of the best, if not the best, wide receiving core in the NFL with the guys that they have in there, with Cruz, with OBJ, with the young Sterling Shepard, who's been phenomenal this season. Yeah, they have a really, really good roster there in New York, and they just weren't able to come up with anything really in this game. It really surprised me. This game shocked me. The Eagles really showed that they have a lot of resiliency, and it starts, I think, with their young quarterback. Carson Wentz didn't blow my mind in this game, but the one thing I did take away is he took a hard shot, had to get checked out. To go through the concussion protocol. He was fine to return. He comes in, returns, and within a couple plays, he breaks the tackle and in the backfield and runs for yards again. And just no fear and a real he has a lot of leadership qualities that I really like. This kid, he doesn't have the arm that blows you away yet, and he's not there as a quarterback yet, but man, he just toughness and leadership really shines through, and that was one thing that really stood out to me in this game was how tough and how good of a leader Carson Wentz came off.
Yeah, I watched the game. I watched bits and pieces of it, and what I saw was Carson, like Ryan just said, Carson Wentz was definitely a big leader in this game. You saw them take advantage of the turnovers, try to get down the field. Let's kill some clock, and I realized what I said. Or Carson Wentz, obviously I feel one of the things I like about Carson is he shows up no matter how bad the rest of his team might play sometimes. Like his receivers, where they're either dropping the ball or they just can't seem to get open. His offensive line wasn't doing very well between when Lane Johnson was playing and then when he came back from his suspension. That time frame, we saw the offensive line had issues. So I think what I saw from Carson Wentz tonight was that he, continues to play the way he's been playing all year. He plays hard. He's tough. He's good leadership qualities. And I think the Eagles have a lot to be looking forward to next year, the Eagles and their fans, because there have been some games, yes, where they've looked bad, but there have been a lot of games where they've looked pretty good or they've had bright moments. And I saw some bright moments during this game. Obviously, you pick off Eli Manning at the end of the game to end it. That's pretty impressive because he's known for having these amazing fourth quarters, but the Eagles made sure that happened. And then you look at the Giants. Defensively, they've looked good all year. Obviously, I even think Thursday night they didn't look bad at certain points, but what really stuff on this year, you just know they're going to be week to week, and what happened, Eli Manning threw 3 interceptions. The offensive line couldn't do anything to protect Eli at certain. So it was just the Giants have got to get it figured out. I know some people say that if they're going, it's a late playoff push for them, and they might be able to make a Super Bowl run. Here's the thing: I don't see them sniffing the Super Bowl only because of how inconsistent they are. And this is not the same Eli Manning from 5 years ago or from 2007. This is a completely different Eli Manning who was overthrowing his receivers. Odell Beckham Jr. was frustrated after the game, banging his head against the wall, which I don't think is going to be that big of a controversy or anything like that against the team. It's just he hates to lose, and clearly the players are not happy right now. And Eli Manning better learn how to throw to instead of overthrowing them or underthrowing them or throwing late interceptions, which I've seen him do. This is the second time that I've watched him do that late in the game this year. He did the same thing against Washington earlier in the year. It's just this Giants team is hard to figure out, and I don't even think they know who they are either.
All right. Before we get into the commercial break,
Rich.
Before we get into the commercial break, let's talk a little about the NFC now. If the picture is a little bit more clear, Dallas gets the 1, Seattle's the 2. Right now, the 3 is still not decided, but we know Dallas has home field. The poll was created. Apparently, the fans still believe it's the New York Giants that are the biggest threat to the Dallas Cowboys to win the division. To win the NFC, not the division. The thing is they believe that the Giants beat them twice, they can beat them a third time, which is in fact true, but we all see that it's tough to beat teams 3 times in 1 year. It's just almost impossible to do. Extremely difficult. My pick is actually going to be the Atlanta Falcons. It's not because they're a little bit weak on the defensive side of the football. They've gotten better over the years, missing a few key players, but if you think about it like this, if you want to beat Dallas, what do? You force them to throw the football more than they want to. Atlanta, they're hanging 40 on people without Julio Jones. If Atlanta gets out on top early, scores fast, scores quickly, you basically take away the run from Dallas. That's just the way I see it going down. No one wants to go to Green Bay. No one wants to go to Seattle. I don't think that home field advantage means as much to Dallas as what people believe. My biggest argument on this whole thing is you've got to earn the respect of being feared to be played in your home stadium in the postseason, and we have not seen that with the Dallas Cowboys in God knows how long. So, as I said, I think you're looking at the Falcons as probably the dark horse NFC. Ryan, who do you think is the biggest threat to them to get to the Super Bowl?
I think it's got the Giants, man. Yeah, it has to be. You're looking at a 12-2 football team right now that has beaten everybody in front of them except for the Giants, and especially in home field. I mean, Jerry's World is a big home field advantage. It is by far, without any competition, the largest home field crowd each and every week. They have almost 20,000 fans more than second place. Um, a huge advantage for them. Plus, you have a young, I talked about it a little bit on the last show. You have a young team. Having that stability of playing at home in the playoffs will help out, the young Dak Prescott, a young Ezekiel Elliott. They won't have to worry about as much, and it'll be, more stability for them come playoff time. Now, the Seahawks are obviously a good football team, to be sure. They play really good football, and it seems like they're getting better as the season wears on. But the run game has been real up and down this season, and when it's been down, the Seahawks have not been impressive. They've struggled. We've seen them lose to the Rams earlier this season. They don't. If that run game's not there, Russell Wilson cannot do it by himself. We've seen it when they play good teams and the run game's bad. They're not winning. And that worries me a little bit because, if Rawls gets hurt again or, say a defense just comes ready to play against that run defense, against that rush offense, then I think the Seahawks are done. And I know that the Giants are coming off of a bad game here. But this is a team that is really balanced. They're really balanced. They have a good offense. The rushing attack obviously leaves a lot to be desired, but they move the ball down the field with some great wide receivers, and they can run the ball when they need to. And then if you look at the defense, they've been playing really well. Janoris Jenkins was out in this game. I think that had a big impact for them. When he comes back healthy, that secondary's loaded. A very good secondary. Their front seven is nothing to sneeze at. They get to the quarterback. They put pressure on. This is a good football team, and they know how to play the Dallas Cowboys more than anybody else does. They know how to beat the Dallas Cowboys, and that's something that nobody knows how to do this season. As we've seen, this Giants team has the Dallas Cowboys number. They know how to do it. The key for me is going to be if they can get to that point where they play Dallas and get over these other teams, because we've seen it now in two separate games that the Giants, know how to beat. They know the recipe that works for beating this Dallas Cowboys team, and no other team has proven that they can do that this season. And I think that's why, obviously, the Giants have to be the biggest worry for the Cowboys going into the playoffs.
My pick on the poll in our group was Seattle, and the reason why I see Seattle, and I know that I said they were 2-4-1 before I start on the road this season, but why I like Seattle is because I think that with their prideful bunch that they are, they're going to go. If they go into Dallas, they're going to want to go down there and win on a huge stage in the NFL. I think at this point it would have to be the NFC Championship matchup. So, which I think is possible. I think Seattle and Dallas are going to probably be the two teams that do meet in the NFC Championship game. And when you look at Seattle, they've got a really stout defense. I know that overall this team struggled at points this year, but here's the other thing too: Seattle, they have a lot of experience. And when you look at Dallas, they have good experienced players, but the problem is their quarterback and running back are rookies. And I've talked about it and said it before. I know they're very good, and I think if the season was shorter in the NFL, you probably wouldn't have to worry about them struggling in the playoffs or running out of gas. Because when you think about it, Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott have not played 19 seasons. Okay, now I know Ezekiel Elliott did play in the playoffs one time in college, which adds another game to your resume. But the NFL is a completely different monster. So I know that they do have a week off between the end of the season and when they have to play in the divisional round, which is good for them. But what my concern is when you look at a team like Seattle, they're going to want to go in there and show the rookies what it takes to go to the Super Bowl, what it takes to be a really good playoff team. And Richard Sherman and those guys on the defense, the Legion of Boom, are not going to want to let Ezekiel Elliott run all over their defense or let Dak Prescott play mistake-free football, which he's done pretty much all year long. So that's why I'm taking Seattle. And Seattle's also been in that position where they've played for the Super Bowl. They've played if they make the NFC Championship game this year, this would be their third one, and I think they'd probably go 3-0 if they make it again this year. Dallas they're good, but with rookies as their quarterback and running back, if they start getting tired out in the playoffs because they're playing more games than they're used to, watch out. And I think Seattle's the team that could take them.
All right, with that being said, we're going to head to the commercial break, pick the games, locks, upsets of the week, and then get out of here and enjoy the rest of the football Sunday.
Want to know how a free show stays free? Ads. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's your boy West Dog from the GF6 Show, reminding you to check us out every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, only on AlienXRadio.com. Quick shout out to the crew over at the Free Parking Show. Shout out! That's the GF6 Show. Blow it up!
This is Matt.
Glenn.
And Ryan. We are the hosts of Two Tone Uncensored. We are a Tennessee Titans podcast that has a new show every Wednesday.
You can find us on twotone.pinecast.co or by downloading the Stitcher app on your mobile device.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Two Tone Uncensored and like us on Facebook. Tighten up.
See, that wasn't that bad. Now back to the show.
All right, we're going to break into some fantasy news here. First, big news, two big wide receivers. A.J. Green is officially out today. The doctors will not let him play. And Adam Schefter reports that it is unlikely we see A.J. Green in either of the last two games of the season. So very important if you're playing in your championship or you're still in the playoffs in this season. Do not play A.J. Green. He will not be active today. As for Julio Jones, will be active, is playing today. For all those who own Julio Jones, definitely something to keep in mind when you're setting your lineup. But let's move into some start and sits here. First, for me, I'm going to do some starts, and that's going to be J.A. versus Buffalo. I know that J.A. has struggled as of late. His numbers have taken a dip, but he's going to be starting a game with a backup quarterback against Buffalo, who has allowed the seventh most fantasy points to running backs this season, in a game that they really need to win in order to keep their playoff hopes alive. The couple losses that Miami has taken recently has really put them in a high-pressure situation. Buffalo, not a great team. I expect to see J-Train to get a lot of touches in this game, get a lot of carries, and should be a very good fantasy boost for you this week. Next one I'm staying with running backs here is Terrence West. He's going up against Pittsburgh, who has given up the fifth most fantasy points to running backs. We know how the Ravens play the Steelers. Seems like it always happens, and this Pittsburgh defense, they have weaknesses all over this defense, to be sure. But there has been guys that have stepped up in that secondary this year, so they're not nearly as bad as they were last year. But I think Terrence West is going to be a key part of this Ravens game plan. They've been getting to him in the passing game. He's been getting a lot of carries. He's been a very key piece of this Ravens offense for the last couple weeks. I expect it to continue this week. Next for me is two quarterbacks for you, and funny because they both come from the same draft class. It's going to be Jameis Winston versus the Saints and Marcus Mariota versus the Jaguars. Both these young quarterbacks have been playing really good this season. Both have some pretty spectacular numbers. Jameis Winston going against the Saints team whose secondary has let them down year in and year out. Although they have played a little bit better this year than we've seen them play in quite some time, but they're still not very good. And the Tampa Bay is trying to play themselves into the playoffs here. I expect them to come ready in this one. I expect Winston firing the football quite a bit. And we know how the Saints can drive up a score on a team and put pressure on your team to keep up with them. It seems like every team that plays the Saints, that's the week where they score the most points. And then they always end up being great games offensively. I think you're going to see a big game, possibly the biggest game we've seen this year from Jameis Winston this week. And as for Marcus Mariota, he's putting up great numbers until the last 2 weeks, but he has played two of the best defenses in football in the Denver Broncos, the Kansas City Chiefs, and he led his teams to victories in both of those games. Now he's getting a breather. It's the first time he's gotten to play an easy team for a while, going against the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. This is a team that's really struggled on the defensive side of the football this year, and Marcus has some weapons that have really stepped up. Obviously, Delaney Walker, a key piece to that offense, and Rashad Matthews really has, starting to become more of a household name as he's been playing really great. Had a good game against Kansas City even, and a guy that has been really stepping up and performing well for that team. So I expect Marcus to have a really good game this week against the Jaguars. It seems like he saves his best and his young career for this Jacksonville team. Always puts up really big fantasy numbers. So that's a great quarterback to keep in mind. Two good quarterbacks to keep in mind when you're setting your lineup this week. A couple wide receivers here for you. Michael Crabtree versus the Colts. Great matchup. Mark Crabtree finally looks like he's 100% healthy. And, the Colts defense obviously is what it is. And I think that you see this Raiders team really take it to the Colts this week. And they should, mind you, all Raiders fans out there. The Tennessee Titans came out and beat Denver for you. We beat Kansas City for you. We're helping you out. This is your turn to repay the favor to the Titans and beat the hell out of the Colts. No, but next, Julian Edelman versus the Jets. I know Edelman's numbers have been lower than expected this season, but I think you're going to see this Patriots team come out against this Jets team and really play. And we all know this Jets team struggles. There's no Gronk, so obviously that gives Edelman an advantage. And this Jets team really doesn't have anybody that they can play in the slot that's going to be able to keep up with Julian Edelman. I think this is a big day for him. I think you're going to see him put up impressive fantasy numbers. I expect a good day from Edelman. And the last one is one that I've said 3 weeks in a row now. Same guy, and I hope you've taken my advice on this. I have, and it's put me in a championship game in a couple leagues now. Dontrell Inman. The guy just came out of nowhere and has really played spectacular. He's a matchup nightmare. It seems like no one can get a guy on him that can really stick to him. And this week they go up against the Cleveland Browns. No explanation needed there. It's the worst team in football. I expect San Diego to have a huge day today against the Browns, and I expect Inman to get a really great game. As for defenses, I think New England's the best start this week as far as defense go against the Jets team that has really, really struggled on offense. There's a couple others out there I think will do good. I think you can pick either team from the Denver matchup. Obviously, I think Kansas City has the better chance because Denver's Denver's offense is so bad. Either of these teams really see these battles between these two teams, normally very tight, low-scoring affairs. Also, I think that you can take a riskier start in bigger leagues and start Baltimore this week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It is riskier, but we always see Baltimore play Pittsburgh. It seems like it's their best games every single year. Baltimore, I believe, is on a 4-game winning streak against the Pittsburgh Steelers right now and looking for number 5. So obviously a good start there. Here's a couple sits for you. Guys I would shy away from. First would be Tom Brady. I think that he's going to have more than enough time, more than enough openings to have a great game in this. But we saw them activate Jacoby Brissett. And Rich touched on this earlier. Tom Brady's going to start this game. The questionable tag doesn't worry me that much. He's going to start this game. But how long into this game is it going to be before they have a good lead, pull him and put Garoppolo in? They activated Brissett so they have a backup for Garoppolo. That's the reason why they did it, and they did that because I think they're plan on using that. If New England jumps out to an early lead, I think you see Tom Brady come out and Garoppolo go, and that is why I shy away from Tom Brady this week, because I don't think you're going to see them stay in for very long. So even if he does have success early, and he gets pulled, you're still looking at, a pretty poor game from a quarterback from a fantasy standpoint. Next one here is going to be on the defensive side of the ball, San Diego's defense. I know they're going up against Cleveland. And San Diego's pass rush has been good, but their secondary is not. And when you pressure pressure RG3, he has the ability to move outside the pocket and fire the ball down the field. It's one of his best weapons, and I think you'll see him use it today. And when you have that extended coverage, it's really when you're going to see San Diego hurt. I do not think that Cleveland's going to win this game, but we have seen Cleveland score points on teams and put up points, give defenses bad days. They've been doing it quite a few times this season. I think this is going to be one of them. So I would shy away from San Diego's defense this week because I do believe Cleveland's going to be able to score on them, and I think that it's going to be average at best day from a fantasy sport defense. So those are two guys that I shy away from this week. The one other one that I'd say I definitely shy away from this week is, if you can, and this isn't if you can, I'll explain that more later, is Carlos Hyde. And I know that he's a great weapon on that team. I've had him on a lot of my teams this year. He's a guy that I like a lot. But the LA defense does runs. The thing that they're good at is playing up front, and they can load the box like that. And they can afford to load the box against Colin Kaepernick, who he's been playing all right, but he does make mistakes. He doesn't get past the second read like ever. So a team that you can load the box against, I think you're going to see Carlos Hyde have a bad day. So if you're in a deep league, I say you still have to start him there. But if you're in like an 8-man league, or you have like a 10 or 12-man league with short benches, go out and find a guy, or if you have someone on your bench that you feel decent about, I would start him over Carlos Hyde this week. I just don't feel like he's going to have a good game. I feel like you're going to see another 6-7 point outing at most from him. I just don't think that he's going to be able to run the rock with consistency in this game. So those are three guys that I definitely say you shy away from this week. And my sleeper start this week is going to be Rashad Matthews, as I was talking about earlier, for the Tennessee Titans at wide receiver. They're going up against Jacksonville. Jalen Ramsey has been playing very good this year, but they move Matthews around a lot. He plays in the slot. He plays on the outside at the X and the Z. The X and the Y, and he moves around a lot. They have a guy there that has good hands, moves well, and has really become Marcus Mariota's favorite target. So you're going to see him on Ramsey at points, but definitely not throughout the entire game. We haven't seen Ramsey move a whole lot. He kind of plays on that one side only. So I think he's a good start this week against the Jacksonville's defense that has been playing very well. If you're looking for a wide receiver and you're in a deeper league, I'd say this is a guy you go ahead and grab and start this week. And I saw, before we get into fantasy questions, I did see one I answered earlier that was asked of me, and I touched on it. Someone asked if they should start New England's defense or San Diego's defense. Obviously, based on what I just told you, I think New England's defense is a must start this week. But that's all I have for fantasy, unless we have more fantasy questions.
I thought of one, and now I'm trying to remember what it was. Let's see. Let me just look at my roster really quick. Okay, so should I put Dion Lewis in any of my leagues today over a receiver and the wide receiver, tight end, and running backs? Should I keep Doug Baldwin in that spot?
That's a good question. Dion Lewis obviously back. Yeah, for me, I think you still have to. I would still stick with Baldwin here. Arizona has been playing really well as of late. I think he's going to get a few opportunities to make big plays that we've seen Doug Baldwin make in his career. And for me, I know that they play way two different roles on the team. LeGarrette Blount and Dion Lewis, but I think you're going to see a lot more of Blount on the field. Right now he's been playing really well, and they've really kind of stuck to this downhill running attack as of late and passing the ball short. And then when they do go to the long ball, it's out of play action. It's really worked for the Patriots this year, obviously, and I think they're going to stick to it. So even though I think, obviously Lewis is a far different weapon, I just don't think you're going to see him get a lot of playing time on the field, where I think you're going to see Baldwin see far more snaps, and obviously that means, normally means more targets, more production.
Thank you.
All right, that's all the fantasy we have for today. Still no other questions coming in. All right, let's get to the meat of this show. Christmas Eve games, which is today. Very rarely do you see the league play on a Saturday, unless, of course, it is a national holiday, which makes no sense because they got 2 games tomorrow, and then they play games on Thanksgiving as well. All right, starting off, let's go Washington at the Giants. Washington at the Bears. I just saw Chicago. I don't know where I got the Giants from. Washington is actually favored by 3 here. I'm actually going to take the Bears in this game. I think Washington's defense is giving them a little bit of trouble. And after what I saw last week with Matt Barkley going up against Green Bay and nearly beating the Packers, I think the Packers are on this magical run. But I'm actually taking the Bears today.
I'm going to take the Bears, too, in this one. The Bears have been playing pretty good football as of late. Washington trying to play themselves in, but they have really struggled in the last few games. Their defense isn't doing much, and their offense isn't able to keep up. Jordan Reed still, he's questionable at this time. It looks like you don't know. No, actually, sorry, just saw this. Ruled out. Jordan Reed ruled out this week. That obviously takes a big hindrance to this Redskins offense. A lot of their offense goes through Jordan Reed, an excellent tight end. He's not going to be in there. And you're seeing a Chicago team that's really stepped up. I think they're one of, if not the most injured teams this year. And a lot of these guys have really stepped up, and they've hung around with Green Bay and the Tennessee Titans. And you were seeing them hang around good teams, playoff teams, and stick around to the very end. I mean, I'm a Titans fan, as everybody knows. Chicago should have beaten us. If it wasn't for dropped passes, Chicago would have beat the Tennessee Titans in that game. Obviously glad that they didn't, but they should have won that game. This Chicago team is a lot more dangerous than I think a lot of people think they are. Now, I think they beat the Redskins this week.
Well, I guess I'm going to be the lone man here. I'm picking Washington. I know that they've struggled the past few weeks, but I think with their backs against the wall, they should be able to pull this out. They've got a really talented offense. I know defensively they've got a lot to work on, but Chicago is better than the record in the case kind of like last year, but I just like what Washington has on offense against what Chicago can do on defense. And with Kirk Cousins' ability to make all the throws, I think, in my opinion, I wouldn't be shocked to see him just have Deshaun Jackson have a pretty good game, and possibly Pierre Garçon. It does hurt them, though, that Jordan Reed's out of the game because it gives sort of that big body that can catch over the middle, or pretty much make catches anywhere on the field as a tight end. So now they're going to have to rely on Vernon Davis, but it'll be close, and I'm taking Washington.
Miami at Buffalo. Buffalo's favored by 3.5. I'm still taking the Dolphins. I've been riding the Dolphins bandwagon for about 8 weeks now. I love this football team. No Ryan Tannehill. I don't think is going to be a huge factor at all with a poor Buffalo team. And I know that this game is actually holding some sort of pride value for the Bills. Like, you saw Rex Ryan last week. He's like, "Oh, I'm a New England Patriots fan for life the rest of this year or whatever," because they know if they went out He can probably keep his job, but he would love to knock the Dolphins out. But I think this Dolphins team is too well coached. Matt Moore is an underrated quarterback for being a backup in this league. I think Miami gets the job done.
I'm going to agree here. I think Miami is going to do it. Matt Moore is probably one of the best backups in the league. Definitely one of the best backups in the league. Might be up there at the top. And he's an outstanding player. I don't think a lot of people, a lot of fans that haven't gotten to see a lot of him know how good Matt Moore truly is. I don't think there's that huge of a gap between him and Tannehill. That being said, they're going against the Buffalo team that has struggled a lot this season. We've already heard the rumors that Rex Ryan's on his way out, that Tyrod Taylor's going to be in his last year as a Buffalo Bill. We've all heard these rumors, and it's because this team hasn't been performing the way that they ought to. They're going up against, as Bill has to run in order to have success. This Miami's defensive line stacked. The linebackers have been a liability at times, but they have stepped up and played a little bit better this season with the addition of Kiko Alonso being the main factor. If they can really corral this run game, it's going to be a very easy game for Miami. But even if they don't, I still think Miami is going to come out with a win. I just don't have a lot of faith in Tyrod Taylor right now, and I do have faith in Matt Moore and JAJA and what's going on in that Miami offense. Adam Gase has really done a great job of turning this team around quickly.
I'm taking Miami here, too, as well. Ryan, you brought it up earlier in the show. Buffalo gives up the 7th most fantasy points to running backs. I know that obviously fantasy and real football are different, but that means they're allowing yards and touchdowns. And I think Ajayi is going to have a comeback game today. Obviously, at this point, Buffalo is just playing to keep Rex Ryan's job. And Miami, they're trying to make the playoffs. So I think Miami wins this game. I'm shocked that they're not favored in this. I know Matt Moore, the backup quarterback's in there, but they still got really good receivers. They've got a really good running back. Their defense, I think, is still underrated for the Miami Dolphins. And Ryan, as you talked about, Tyrod Taylor's had his up and downs this year, so Miami should be able to keep him at bay, keep him in check. One last quick thing about the Buffalo Bills and about Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan cares about the big picture things, but his team only seems to play down the stretch when it means that he's going to keep his job. So, to me, even if Buffalo wins out, they got to fire Rex Ryan.
Atlanta at Carolina. Carolina by 2.5. This one was a tough game for me to call, but with Julio Jones coming back, I reassured myself that the Falcons are going to
Atlanta by 2.5?
Yes. Did I say Carolina? I'm sorry. It's Atlanta by 2.5. My apologies. My brain is not fully functioning just yet. I was unsure on this game. I saw Julio Jones coming back, seeing how badly the Carolina secondary has played all year. And I know this is a divisional game, but I think Atlanta can take care of business here. They know what's at stake right now as far as continuing this race to win this division and getting that home game in the wild card round.
Well, I'm going to agree here. I think that 2.5 margin's laughable. I think Atlanta's going to come in here, go against a Panthers team that has been god-awful at the cornerback position. You're going up against Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu and Matt Ryan and these two fantastic running backs and Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman. This is just a two-headed monster that we haven't seen a two-headed monster this good in quite some time. They're playing really outstanding football. This offense is so high-powered. I think Carolina gets just bowled over in this game. I'd be comfortable taking a 7-point margin, in fact, in this game. I know it's a divisional game, anything can happen, but Atlanta's going to win this, and I think they're going to win it handedly.
Yeah, I was shocked at how close the spread was, and I'm taking Atlanta handily in this game too. I know Carolina's played well as recent, but the thing is, Atlanta's offense is too high-powered, in my opinion, for Carolina to be able to stop them. And especially considering the lack of experience or quality of the Carolina secondary, I think Matt Ryan's going to have a big game. You're going to see the running backs do well, not just running the football, but catching it. I wouldn't be shocked if they win by double-digit points because, I know Carolina's, like I said, Carolina's played well as of late, but Atlanta's a juggernaut on offense, and I don't see Carolina stopping them. I don't even see Carolina matching them point for point because Cam Newton struggled mightily too.
Minnesota at Green Bay. Green Bay is by 6.5 here. I'm actually going to take Green Bay to win the game, but I'm actually going to give Minnesota the points here. Green Bay only beat the Bears a week ago by, a field goal, so I can understand why the point spread is so low. I know it's in Green Bay. Minnesota coming off that shellacking from that defensive performance a week ago where Andrew Luck just basically did whatever he wanted to with them. Minnesota and Green Bay know each other pretty good, but Green Bay has just not been a powerhouse. Like, they love coming from behind. Aaron Rodgers is not 100%, so Minnesota should have no problem trying to kind of keeping him at bay and letting him run outside the pocket. He's going to have to stand inside the pocket and do a lot of throwing. Andrew Luck a little bit more healthier. So with that being said, I do like Minnesota in the points, but I think Green Bay wins the game.
I think Green Bay wins the game, and I'll take Green Bay with the points in this one because of a few reasons here. Minnesota's really struggled from a hot start, and then they went to being an average team, and now they're a bad football team. They haven't been able to do anything. Andrew Luck just totaled them. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to do the same. That, and Green Bay has really started to come back. They've started playing a different level of football as of late, especially on the other side of the ball. Jordy Nelson has had his best numbers here coming up later in the year. Aaron Rodgers really feels more comfortable, and he's getting better. You know, he took that the first half of the season blues that he was having. And another key factor for me, this is at Green Bay in December. And I know that Minnesota likes to think that they're a cold weather football team, but this is a dome team. Let's be honest. This is a climate-controlled team. They have to go to Lambeau Field, which I'm sure it will be frigid this afternoon, and beat a Green Bay team. Just not going to happen. I'm going to take Green Bay, and I think they're going to win by a large margin.
I'm taking Green Bay by a large margin here. You know, the thing about the Vikings is no Adrian Peterson today. Their offenses look bad. And Minnesota's the kind of team where if you score 10 points against them, you have a really good chance to win because their offense can't move the football. It's in Green Bay. I think Green Bay's going to win big because there's a lot of pride on the line here. They win out, they can probably make the playoffs, so I'm taking Green Bay to beat Minnesota. Especially because Green Bay, if they win today, next week when they play the Lions could be the deciding factor on who wins that division.
As it stands right now, Green Bay is in the playoffs if the season was to end. The Jets at the Patriots. I think this is actually the biggest point spread we've had all year. 16.5. I think New England wins, but the last 7 meetings between these two teams have managed to only be 7 points or less. So if I'm a betting man, I'm going to take the Jets and the points all day long, but I'm looking more like a New England. 7 to 10 points is about fair enough. This is where Vegas is like, come on, you want to make that bet and take the Jets and the points, or you want to take the Patriots to blow them out. I don't believe in the 16.5 points. That's absolutely ridiculous. I made the comment on one of the groups like, hey, I'm taking the Jets with the points all day long in this game. These two teams, tough competitors. Todd Bowles coming back. He's going to want to come into Foxborough and give the Patriots a tough time, and that's just what the Jets do. I don't see this that big of an upset. In terms of, I don't see it, not upset, but that big of a blowout. It's just ridiculous.
Okay, so New England hosting the Jets, 16.5 point spread is pretty ridiculous. I do agree there, Rich. I know the Jets are bad, but that's just a terrible spread. Because it's a divisional game, and I know that the Jets played the Patriots tough the first time, I don't think it'll be as close as the first matchup, but I still think it'll be close. It's a divisional matchup. Both of these teams know each other pretty well, but I'm still picking New England here to win this game. But I think the Jets can cover that spread. That's ridiculous, especially because if, let's say, the Patriots jump out to an early lead, they put in Garoppolo and kind of minimize the offense, just hand it off, make some short throws, just to get him out there and have him throw the football, and the Jets score some meaningless points toward the end of the game. That's how I could see them covering the spread. But geez, that big of a spread is pretty ridiculous. And like I said, divisional game. It's I think the Jets, they're playing for their pride at this point, and also, I know that the Jets have given up on Todd Bowles at times, but if they see Todd Bowles coming because he's going to coach today, they see their coach who was just hospitalized coming to coach, maybe that inspires them to play a close game and try to beat the Pats.
Yeah, I'm never taking a 16.5 point margin. You just can't, man. That's so much points. And like Peter brings up a great point. What happens late in the game if they put in Garoppolo and they just tell him like, let's go, like blount, punt the ball. Like let's just eat up some clock, and they decide to do that. And then the Jets have good field position. There's too much. I can see how people would be tempted. But a divisional game, there's going to be emotion behind it with their head coach just getting out of the hospital and getting some pride out of this season. And I don't think I'll ever take a 16.5 point margin, like ever. That's a lot of points. So I'm taking New England obviously to win this game. I don't think they're going to have trouble doing it, but I can't take that margin.
Tennessee at Jacksonville. Tennessee's favored by 5 here. No Gus Bradley. Doug Marrone named interim and whatever it's called, the head coach for the remainder of the year. I'm taking Tennessee to win this game, but I'm going to actually take Jacksonville with the 5-point spread. They made it a little close with Houston, just came up short. Gave it away at the very last second they lost that football game. Another divisional matchup. I think Doug Marrone was one of the reasons, he got the Bills back on track. I don't think he's going to work his magic overnight, but I think they're going to be a little bit more competitive with the new head coach. And it seems like anytime you see a new head coach come in, it's like a spark plug for a team that just has not been there all year. Now, Tennessee's by far the much better ball club, but I just got a feeling that Jacksonville's going to cover these 5 points.
Yeah, this is going to be in Jacksonville, so a little bit of a help for them. But yeah, this Jacksonville team has been playing really bad football. The running game is non-existent. The passing game has been dismal. And even worse on defense. Not a whole lot to like. But you do bring up a great point. Is this? We've seen, especially in the last few years, you fire your head coach in the middle of the season. It's like a spark plug. I mean, Dan Campbell, look what he did last year with the Miami Dolphins and Tennessee Titans last year. They fired their head coach and they come up with a big win right after that. So there is that little spark plug that happens, but you also look at those two teams from last season. Miami had a hard schedule, fired their coach, and then had an easy couple of games that they took some wins for. And then if you look at the Tennessee Titans, they fired their head coach, and the next game they played the Saints. Defense was just horrendous, and they beat in overtime. It's I think more matchups help them out there. So I think that you're going to see Jacksonville come out and play a little harder today, play a little bit more aggressive. It is a division game, and it's a chance for Jacksonville. It's a heated rivalry, Jacksonville, to keep Tennessee out of the playoffs because they beat Tennessee. Tennessee does the playoffs, so it's a way for them to try to play spoiler, but I have complete faith that the Titans are going to be able to get this done. The two-headed monster that is DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry is going to be really hard for this Jacksonville. I'm taking Tennessee, and I'm taking the points.
I'm taking Tennessee in the points here, too. Jacksonville's just playing some bad football, like Brian just said, which is unfortunate because Jacksonville does have a team. So whoever coaches them next still has to make a higher risk and be able to get the most out of their players and make sure they don't quit on them. That being said, Ryan was talking about earlier in the show during the fantasy segment. Marcus Mariota plays some of his best football, not his best, against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Just Jacksonville, but I don't think that helps them because are their fans really into that team right now? I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. Because, I think to me the Jaguars are probably the third watch team in Florida behind Miami, Tampa Bay. Obviously, Miami has a great history, so you factor all those things. I also like Tennessee to run the football effectively, but one of the things that we don't really talk about as far as sometimes is that he likes, even though he likes to run, he's a throw first kind of quarterback. So I think today you're going to see Marcus probably 250 yards passing and probably about 75 yards rushing. It's not that bad defensively. And I think Marcus Mariota is going to have a nice game, too. Plus, you've got DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry coming out of the backfield. So they might just be able to run the ball all over Jacksonville. And then I wouldn't be shocked to see Marcus Mariota have at least one long pass for a touchdown because being able to run the ball, he has a great strong arm and behind the secondary. He can make that throw down the field. It'll be game over.
All right, San Diego or Cleveland? I'm not even going to break this one down. I'm going to take San Diego on the points.
I'm going to take San Diego, but I'm not going to take the points here. I talked about it. Cleveland's played some tough, close games, even though that they are still a winless football team. They took Miami, and a Miami team that's going to the playoffs. They took them to overtime. They played Tennessee down to the last drive. They've played some good football teams this season and kept it close. This is going to be another one of those, but San Diego gets the win.
I am going to take San Diego on the points here. I know the Browns have played tough, but the Browns are the Browns. I don't see them winning this game.
You saw them winning last week, though, didn't you? You thought I was going to let that one go.
I don't remember that. I must have been in the coma. I don't remember saying that.
Indianapolis at Oakland. Oakland by 3.5. I'm actually going to take Indianapolis in this game. Look, Oakland's playing really good football. I think they're playing inspired football from the win a week ago. But we saw what Andrew Luck did to the Vikings. I just think that Andrew Luck is going to be the one that's going to come in and actually give the Oakland Raiders a run for their money with that offense. It looked like the Colts look like the Colts that we should have seen all year, just completely coming in and hanging 34-36 on a really good Vikings team that has been playing really good defensively. Offensively, they've had problems. On the opposite side of the ball, I think this is going to be the most exciting game for the 1 o'clock. This is the first 4 o'clock game. I think this is going to be the most exciting game because you're going to see two really good quarterbacks going head to head. And if it comes down to a possession game, whoever gets the ball last, this is going to be the winner. So I could take Indianapolis in the points, but I think Indianapolis somehow manages to come away with a win today.
I'm taking Oakland and the points in this one. For the main reason for me is the pass rush. They played a team last week, the Colts did, and a Vikings team that has no real pass rush. And that's a big reason why you saw Andrew Luck's success. That line is not that great in Indianapolis. They've really struggled at times, and that has been a big reason why Andrew Luck has not been able to perform at a level that he probably should, given his talent. You look at this Oakland team, and you're going to have Khalil Mack. You're going to have Bruce Irvin. This team has a pass rush, a dangerous one, in fact. Even though that their secondary is not great, this is going to really limit what Andrew Luck can do in this football game. And then you look at the other side of the ball, the Colts haven't been really able to slow down anybody this season outside of the Vikings. And this is a team that does struggle against the pass. You're going up against a very good passing attack. And an offensive line that is unsung, but is pretty good in Oakland. So I think that you're going to see Oakland come out with a pretty easy win in this one.
I'm taking Oakland in this one too. I can't believe how close the spread is. And Ryan, you alluded to it. Obviously, who the Colts played last weekend was not. Their pass rush isn't that great. Now, the problem going to be here is that if Bruce Irvin and Khalil Mack start getting into Andrew Luck early and the offensive line tries to double up on one of them, it's going to allow other guys to go free at the quarterback, or it's going to allow them to just drop a lot of people back in coverage while Andrew Luck's turning around, and it's going to force him to throw the ball and possibly make some mistakes. And also, the one thing we haven't brought up here, but right here we brought up the offensive line, but Oakland is far better than Indianapolis. Plus, Oakland can run the ball. The Colts can't. So if Derek Carr's still having issues with his finger and throwing the football, all they're going to have to do is turn around, hand off the football, and play defense, and they're going to win this game. So I'm picking Oakland with the points. Rich, I know you just made fun of me for picking the Browns last week, bro. When Oakland crushes the Colts today, I'm gonna have something to say to you next week.
Well, see, there's no competition because you took the Browns. I actually took a team that could possibly beat Raiders. And speaking on that, speaking how you said the Vikings have no pass rush, they're ranked 8th in league right now on quarterback sacks. So there is a pass rush there. Oakland is ranked in the bottom half. So I just call it like it is. We need well, you can sit there and clown on me all you want to, but you're the one that took a lock and upset when you said Cleveland over the Bills a week ago. So I'm happy with you coming in and bashing me on that, but nothing will ever top me saying, I'm going to take the Browns and the Bills in a lock over upset. So, I mean, that was kind of like you were picking the pipe up early on your birthday. So, moving ahead here, Tampa Bay at...
do things in Las Vegas.
Do I now? Do what?
You know how we do things here in Las Vegas, bro.
How's that? Oh, Sin City? Okay, yeah.
You said picking up the pipe early, so yeah, Sin City.
Yeah, Sin City. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, in other words. All right, moving over here.
On the radio.
All right, now Tampa Bay at New Orleans. New Orleans favored by 3. I like the Saints. I like the points. Look, Drew Brees is got a higher passer rating at home than he does on the road. This is another shootout game. I know Tampa Bay shut them down when they came into Tampa Bay, but this game is played in New Orleans on their home turf, so I think home field plays a little bit of an advantage here today. New Orleans by 3. I like the line. I think it's going to be a 3 to 7 point victory for the Saints.
I'm taking Tampa Bay in this one outright. This Tampa Bay Buccaneers team has been playing really great this second half of the season. With getting Charles Sims and Doug Martin back really helped this team out. A good duo of backs there. Obviously has a solid wide receiving core led by Mike Evans and then Jameis Winston. And on that defensive side of the ball, you still have Gerald McCoy, Alteron Werner, some very talented Levante David. They have weapons at every level on that defense. For me, the Saints, it's Drew Brees. And that's it. I know they have some talented wide receivers there, and there's some talent at certain positions, but it really comes down to the way Drew Brees plays. This is the Colts of the South, if you will, just with a more veteran quarterback. I think Tampa Bay gets this done. I think it's almost a crime that the Saints are favored in this game.
Yeah, I was actually shocked the Saints were favored in this game, too, and I picked Tampa Bay, which I know was going to shock Rich, but like you said, Ryan, New Orleans, they're just a complete mess right now. I mean, Drew Brees is about the only thing they have going on offense, aside from the running backs who occasionally show up, but defensively they're atrocious, and Tampa Bay, if there's one thing about Tampa Bay I've learned this year is that despite how hot and cold they've been, I feel like if their backs are against the wall, which they pretty much are at this point, they're trying to make the playoffs, they're going to want to go to New Orleans and beat them. And I think it's possible that they do go do that, which is why I'm picking them. They have some great offensive weapons. I think their defense, truth be told, is a little bit better than we give them credit for. And I think about, last week, they played Dallas in Dallas, right? So it's hard to beat Dallas in Dallas unless you're the Giants. So Tampa Bay going to New Orleans, I think this is a better matchup for them. It's a division rival. They know them better than the Cowboys, and I'm taking Tampa Bay here. And the points. I think Tampa Bay should actually, I know usually it's the other way around when Tampa Bay is would be favored, but I'm taking Tampa Bay by twice as many points as New Orleans is favored by, so I think Tampa wins by 6.
Looking at this next game, when I was writing this out, I said, do we really have to pick this? San Francisco at Los Angeles. The Rams are favored by 3.5. At this point, does it even really matter who wins this football game? For the sake of making the pick, I'm just going to take the Rams because they're the favorites. I have no idea. You could literally lay money on either side, and it'd be a roll of the dice with this one.
I'm taking the Rams here, but I'm not going to take the points at 3.5. I think this is going to be a tight football game between these two teams. I expect to see a healthy dose of Todd Gurley in this one. Also expect to see Colin Kaepernick really try to challenge this defense. But for me, it comes down to two poor offenses and one poor defense and one pretty good defense in Los Angeles. So the defense for Los Angeles is going to be the difference maker for me in this football game. But I still think it's going to be a really tight margin because both of these offenses are going to struggle to score.
I am going to be the lone person here. I'm taking San Francisco. I know that Todd Gurley might have a big game, but LA is just a complete mess with the rookie quarterback who is struggling mightily. I think Chip Kelly might actually get his second win as a head coach of the 49ers and probably his second and last one of the season today. I think San Francisco more of a veteran team. I know the Rams. I know obviously I just said Todd Gurley could have a big game, but truthfully, I can't pick the Rams anymore this season. And believe me, I went back and forth in my head last night when I was looking at the script that Rich sent us, but I just can't pick LA in this game. I just can't.
Real quickly, would it surprise either one of you if one team blows the other one out? Because it wouldn't me.
Nope.
I think it would surprise me to an extent, just because I think both of these offenses struggle. So to see a team really take over, unless it was just the other offense really just giving the ball away, a punch and giving up short fields or, pick sixes or something of the like. Because I just don't see either of these offenses having extended success in this game.
Arizona at Seattle. Seattle by 8.5. I'm going to take the Seahawks and the points. By placing the Honey Badger on IR, it's kind of like the Arizona Cardinals have decided, nope, screw it, we're done for the year, we're mailing it in and going home.
I mean, the Cardinals are now mathematically eliminated from the playoffs after their loss last week to the Saints. So, I mean, it makes sense for them to make the move to put the Honey Badger Matthew on IR. And this game's not going to be fun for them at Seattle. One of the hardest places to play in the NFL. It really gets loud up there with the 12th man effect. But the 8.5, I think, is a little high for me to take in this game. These NFC West matchups as of late have been low-scoring affairs. There are a lot of good defenses in that division. So it's going to be a low-scoring affair, but I still, obviously think the Seahawks are going to come out with a win. So I'm going to take Seattle, but not the points.
I'm thinking Seattle on the points here. I know obviously some of this might be seen like a big spread, but Arizona, they're just, at this point, they're kind of at their last gasp to try to win a few more games and finish out the season on a better note than it started. And I just like Seattle at home. They got the 12th man effect. You've got the Legion of Boom. The Honey Badger's not going to be going again for the Arizona Cardinals, so that leaves a hole in the secondary. I'm taking Seattle here, and I'm taking Seattle by 10.
I'm taking Cincinnati outright in this game for a few reasons. Tom Savage is first, and I know that you look at his stat line for last week and it looks good. You watched the game, you saw that all those passes are 3-yard outs. They're 5 yards. They're really short dink and dunk style passes. In order to get a win against a team in Cincinnati that has a good defense, you're not going to be able to do that. You have to be able to, at times, to throw the football down the field. Tom Savage doesn't have the strongest arm, that's for sure, and is pretty inaccurate when he throws the football deep. You're going to throw those kind of balls against, Adam Pac-Man Jones, and you better be ready to tackle because that ball's coming back. The Texans defense, though, obviously pretty good in their own right. No A.J. Green, but I think that kind of helps out the Cincinnati a little bit. It definitely hurts to have a guy like that on your field. But when you're playing a defense that's good, it really gives you a lot to spread out. Spread everybody out. Use different wide receivers. Because after A.J. Green, you really don't have a set number one go-to wide receiver. So you can really spread out your wide receivers, get it to different guys. I still expect you see, 3 to 4 wide receivers get about the same targets in this game. Plus, Jeremy Hill has really come back strong in the last few weeks. And I mean, you look at this Cincinnati team, and they're playing their best football late. I mean, they almost beat the Steelers last week. They've been playing some outstanding football as of late. Now, I really think that Houston's going to lose this one. I think Cincinnati's going to take it.
I'm actually taking Houston here because Tom Savage is a starting quarterback and not Brock Osweiler. And, what I saw from the highlights when Tom Savage was playing, I saw a guy that had more touch on his passes than Brock Osweiler did, and that's going to be important in this game, especially because considering Houston has a lot of weapons. I'm surprised the spread's 1 point. I thought it might have been 3, but at that point it's still a low number. And I know the Bengals are still playing good football, but I can't pick the Bengals over Houston without AJ Green.
Moving over to Christmas Day, 2 games on the schedule. Baltimore at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is favored by 5.5. Baltimore is like the equivalent of the New York Giants. They have the Steelers' number. I'm going to take Baltimore to cover the spread, but I think Pittsburgh will win this football game. They know how important it is. It's another one of them divisional games. You must win this game if you want to make the playoffs, because I think that playoff race is running a little bit tight with 2 teams coming out of the West. You may see Miami, New England come out of the East, so it leaves 1 spot open from the North. I like Pittsburgh, but Baltimore will cover this spread.
I mean, this is tough, but I have to take Baltimore here. They just prove every single time that they play Pittsburgh that they just know exactly how to come out with a win. Joe Flacco has been better than I think a lot of people realize. He's going up against a weak secondary, also a weak rush rush defense with Terrence West, who over the last couple of weeks has caught fire. I talked about him in my fantasy segment. And I look at the other side of the football, and I think it's definitely harder for Ben Roethlisberger to pass today than it will be for Joe Flacco to pass today. The Ravens do have weapons in their secondary. Their pass rush, I believe, is underrated. I think that they can put a lot of pressure on him. I still think it's going to be a tight, low-scoring affair between these 2 teams, but I expect to see Baltimore win at the end just because Baltimore always does against the Steelers.
I'm taking Baltimore here. If history's shown us anything, Baltimore has dominated Pittsburgh, and if I'm not mistaken, Baltimore's won the last 4 matchups, and I think 5 of the last 6. I know Pittsburgh has some good offensive players, but I think Baltimore buckles down today. They go into Pittsburgh and they beat them, and they make that division a lot more interesting. And also the AFC playoff picture is going to shift it up a little bit. I don't know if Pittsburgh, their secondary scares me because they're just not that good. And if you get Steve Smith or Mike Wallace behind that secondary, good luck. I'm taking Baltimore all the way in this one.
Denver at Kansas City. Denver by 3.5. I'm not going to consider this an upset.
Kansas City by 3.5.
Oh, I'm sorry. Kansas City by 3.5. I'm not going to consider this an upset. I think the way Kansas City plays football is they really love playing close games. Denver's defense is the real deal. We saw that a week ago against New England. Their offense is stagnant. Then again, you look at Kansas City, they can get hot, they can get cold. They're so up and down. I'm actually going to take Denver to win this game outright.
I'm picking Kansas City and skipping out on those points, that's for sure. We saw this first matchup between these 2 the first matchup between these 2 teams, and it was awesome. Fantastic game. Probably my favorite game this entire season. Just hard-hitting, great defense, just tough to move the foot. This physical game, that's my style of football for sure. But I expect Kansas City to win this game here. They're coming off of a loss against a Titans team where we saw Tyreek Hill have 1 carry for a long touchdown at the start of the game, and then they didn't seem to get him worked back in. We saw Travis Kelce have, I believe it was 2 catches, or maybe 3 catches, but they really didn't fight to go to him. This really surprised me we didn't see more of this. I think Kansas City is going to find a way to get the ball into those playmakers' hands more this week. We know that the one spot where you can take the ball to against this really tough Denver defense is with a tight end. That's the only place that they seem to struggle. Travis Kelce playing as good as anybody at the tight end position right now in this league. And then you have Tyreek Hill is just such a wild card. That much speed is difficult no matter how good your defense is. I'm taking Kansas City in this game because I believe that their offense has a better chance against Denver than I think Denver's offense has against Kansas City's defense.
I'm taking Kansas City in this one, and Jeremy Macklin's reportedly supposed to play, so that helps open up the offense a little bit. And to Ryan's point about them not really going back to Tyreek Hill or using Travis Kelce much last week, that was a shock to me. And so I think you're going to see those two players from Jeremy Maclin get targeted or utilized a lot in this game. It is at Arrowhead Stadium, which is a tough place to play. In Denver right now, they can't seem to get anything going on offense. The offensive line stinks. Their run defense isn't good. And, obviously there's some turmoil ongoing there, which I think is going to hurt them in this game. If the offense struggles early and the defense gets angry, you might see the defense I'm not going to say they're going to quit, but you might see some animosity on the sideline and in the game. So I'm taking Kansas City in this one, and I'm going to take them and the points.
Detroit at Dallas by 7. I'm actually going to take the Cowboys and the points here. I understand that they locked up the 1 seed. They may or may not rest the starters. The only reason I am not taking the Lions is because Matthew Stafford and the bum finger. It's not bothering him more than he is letting anyone know. He was playing marvelous football before he got injured. The injury happens, and he's just not looked right in that pocket. Darius Slay is out as well, and I think he's the heart and soul of that secondary. Dallas, I think, it's gonna be a little bit easier than a lot of people believe. I like Dallas and points.
Yeah, if Dallas rests their starters, then obviously Detroit going to take this one. But if they don't, Rich took the words out of my mouth. No Darius Slay, and you have the injury to the middle finger of Matthew Stafford that we saw last week, how bad that made him struggle. That makes an easy pick for Dallas here. The points, I don't know if I'm taking, though. Dallas never seems to get above 7 on anybody, or very few times in the year. They like to play close games. So I will say Detroit will cover, but I just don't have faith in Detroit being able to win a football game with Matthew Stafford's hand gemmed up.
I'm taking Dallas in this one. Unless, like you guys said, unless Dallas rests their starters, Dallas is going to win this one, and I'm going to take the points to Detroit. Like Darius Slay, Matthew Stafford, injured hand, it's in Dallas. All those things make up for a Dallas win, and I'm going to take Dallas in that game.
Lock of the week, Ryan.
My lock of the week, I'm going to take the easy and obvious one, Patriots over Jets.
Peter.
KC over Denver.
I'm going to flip the script here, and I'm going to take San Diego over Cleveland because Cleveland can't beat anyone anyway. Upset of the week, Ryan.
Upset of the week, the two big ones that I had here is I'm going to take Baltimore over the Steelers and Chicago over Washington.
Mine is San Francisco over the Rams.
I'm actually going to take Indianapolis over Oakland and Miami over Buffalo. All right, games you're watching at 1 o'clock.
My 1 o'clock game as a Titans fan is going to be obviously the Tennessee Titans at the Jaguars, but I definitely am going to be switching over during the commercials so I can watch this Washington-Chicago game. I think it'll be good.
For me, 1 o'clock, New England.
New England as well. I am going to keep a close eye on Green Bay and Minnesota, as well as Buffalo and Miami. 4 o'clock game.
For me, it's going to be Tampa Bay and New Orleans. The 4 o'clock this week just doesn't have a lot of great matchups. But I think this one is probably the best one in my eyes, so I'm going to watch Tampa Bay and the Saints.
Oakland and the Colts.
Oakland and the Colts as well, with a close eye on Tampa Bay and New Orleans. All right, guys, I would go over Christmas Day, but there's only 2 games on, so I'm sure everyone will be watching Christmas Day and Monday Night Football with all the shows being on the sweeps. Any closing Christmas thoughts or anything you want to get off the chest before we get out of here?
Absolutely. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, joyous Kwanzaa, whatever you're celebrating, this winter. Have a good one. Everybody have a happy holidays, and I hope I hope everybody's football wishes come true, unless you're a Jaguars fan this week.
And if you're a Browns fan, they ain't gonna come true. But I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
At least they still have the Cavs and the Indians, so Cleveland fans, you at least got to have one. It just goes with every city, so I mean, you can't. It's not all bad. For me,
the Browns fans, they deserve better than the team they got. They just think.
Well, it's a rebuilding process down there, complete overhaul. So hopefully it works out for them.
It's really the ownership's fault.
My closing thoughts is, like Ryan alluded to, whatever you're celebrating this holiday season, be safe, be happy. Christmas is, Santa Claus will be here tomorrow. Hopefully he's got some great gifts for everyone. And did you got, real quick, I know Ryan, you told me you finished your shopping exclusively the week before Christmas. Are you guys done, complete? Or do you have a couple more things to get?
I shopped on the 22nd and got everything done in one day because I'm a champion. Do it like that.
Are you done, Peter?
Nice. Well, Samantha and I got a lot going on next year. We decided our wedding and a few other things that I'll talk about later on.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
about the house and everything. Those are going to be our gifts. So those two things right there are going to be our gifts to each other. We'll probably go out tonight and have dinner and just relax and celebrate all the good things that are going to be coming next year, the wedding and the house. And
congratulations on that. We are out of here. We will be back Tuesday night for the recap show. Give you all the up-to-date playoff information. We're probably going to see more divisional winners announced over the football weekend. Have a great Christmas. We will see you guys, like I said, Tuesday night. We are out of here.
Thanks for listening to the Free Parking Show. To hear more of the show, check out www.freeparking.com.